Hey everybody, welcome to Houdini Hangout. We are the 16th of April. I hope everybody's having a good week, a nice day, and yeah, it's great to have you here with us. Tonight we're going to be looking at some MPM. There was a suggestion in our Discord server, yeah, so I guess I need to turn that on. Sorry. So yeah, there was a comment in our suggestion in our Discord server with a really cool piece of animation, like simulation stuff that I wanted to take a look at, and yeah, we could take that as kind of an idea and make our own version of it. So yeah, so that's kind of the idea here tonight. We're gonna do kind of an object that's moving through some MPM grains. Hey, Fractaler, welcome. Nice to have you on the stream. Yeah, so I guess why don't we take a quick look at it and we can see what it is that we're gonna try to do something like. So this is the simulation. It's from someone named Jan Elsner, yeah, they've got a lot of really great work out there. So take a look, check their stuff out. Really good. But yeah, so basically what we're doing is just going to be taking, in this case, just what ends up being a cylinder and just kind of moving it through, hey, Shafiq, welcome. Nice to have you here. Have it kind of slowly kind of pulse through the grains that we have in the simulation. So yeah, we'll try to see what we can do, how close we can get it to something that looks like this, and yeah, we'll kind of see where we end up with it. I honestly haven't done too much MPM. I do roughly understand how it works, so hopefully we'll be able to get something good out of it. But yeah, a little bit of an experiment tonight, and we'll see where we go with it. Hey Juan, welcome. Yeah, so that's kind of the idea of what it is that we're going to try to get into tonight. Again, no promises, but we'll see what we can get up to, see if we can, play around with it, tweak it, see what kind of properties, might give us, more or less of that kind of grainy, clumpy look like that. There's a lot of different ways that MPM can be used. Obviously, you can do water with it. You can do grains with it. You can do, you can do these kind of viscous liquids. It's I think the way that I like to think about it is, oh, cool, Fractaler. That's awesome. He'd be happy if he sees this. We troubleshot this once. Cool. Yeah. He had suggested it on the topic suggestion, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool one. I haven't done MPM in a really long time. So, yeah, I guess better late than never. Sometimes it's just tough. There's lots of things to do and suggestions and stuff, but yeah, hopefully they'll be happy to see that. But yeah, so if you have any questions or any thoughts or ideas or anything like that, feel free to drop those in the chat. Obviously we're not, there's no dumb questions here surrounding Houdini, so feel free to, ask away. We'll do our best to kind of see if we can come up with some resolution to the questions. And yeah, if I think if you're struggling with something, most likely somebody else is as well. And, feel free to drop it in the chat. So yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, if you have any ideas or even want to try to correct something that I'm doing, that's great. If you have better thoughts on how to do something, I'm not one to turn down good advice. So happy to take any suggestions at all. And we'll see what we come up with tonight. So yeah, I guess that's about it. Why don't we just jump in and do some Houdini? All right, so just to take a look at this one more time, let's just kind of see what we got going on here. So we've got a cylinder that's coming through and kind of pushing these grains out of the way. I think that's the first thing I'll do. I'll just get that animation kind of going nicely. It shouldn't be too hard, I don't think. Famous last words, but basically all I think I would do is put a sine wave on the animation of the cylinder, and then just basically add that in to the actual position that it's animating in. I'm not super good at chops, but we'll see. We'll see if I can remember how to do it. I don't do it very often. All right, so let's do this. Let's do a geo node, and we'll just say collider, because obviously we're not going to make any like finished geometry here. So let's do this. Let's grab a tube, polygonal tube. Let's make it kind of short and squatty. 0.25. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's up this to like 30. No, let's go even higher than that. Let's go like 48. That seems good. All right, let's also, we could do end caps here, but I think I'd like them to be properly like triangulated at very least. So let's do a polyfill on this, and guess I could do that too. It probably doesn't really make much of a difference. So why don't we just do a triangle fan, make sure it's not deformed, and cool. All right, let's also do a match size, and we will set this to minimum. Get it sitting on the ground plane. Hey, Mr. The Weight, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you here. All right, so let's do that. And let's see how quick we think this is moving. I'm only going to do a short little bit of this. So let's just do like 120 here. And let's do a transform here. Wire this in. And yeah, we'll translate it like so. And maybe we'll move it to like, I don't know, actually we can just probably type in 5 here. And I'm just going to change, well, we can shift middle click on that, sorry. You can see my little thing corrected me up there. And let's see, we've got the translate. Oh, did I not? Oh, I didn't keyframe it properly. So let's keyframe it properly. So we'll do it like that. There we go. And then if we shift middle click on this again, well, I already have it open. So there it is. I'm just going to select it, change this to linear. You can also change that over here, but I'm going to just change it to linear. Now at that point it's Bezier, but it's linear here. So you can see that changes. Okay. So we've got a linear kind of motion there. Let's see how fast that moves. Yeah, that seems pretty good. I like that speed. Feels fine. Let's add a rotation to it as well. Maybe we'll give it a 180-degree rotation. I don't know if it's really going to matter, but I think it might pick up a little bit on it. So that's going to be in the y-axis. So we can just hit that, then come over here. Maybe we'll do 180. I don't know. And that we will also bring up. And where are we here? Did I just not keyframe that properly? I did. Where are we not? There we go. Select this and change it to linear as well. Okay. So there we go. I'll have mine go counterclockwise, or I think his was going clockwise. Cool. That feels pretty good. All right. So just say slide and rotate. And then I'm going to add another transform here because I can just do 2 of these on top of each other. And what I'm going to do is just add in motion effects here, which is going to be a wave. And that's going to add in a little sine wave to it here. And so obviously this is going to be way too big. And so I can just turn the amplitude way, way, way down here. And this is going to give us a little something here. And I'm going to change the period, maybe double it. And let's change this to 1. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Something like that, maybe. All right, we'll do it like that. Cool. All right. Added some chops in there. I was thinking I was going to need to do I was going to have to do that all in chops, but that's easy enough. We can just add in 2 transforms and then we're good. Nothing too crazy there. Let's say null. We're going to say out collider. And there we go. We have got a collider moving here. So that's good. Okay, so there's our geometry collider. Let's add another geometry node here and call this sim, I don't know, grains, something like that. Drop this down. Let's do an object merge. We will grab that geometry there from the other node. There we go. So we'll just say get collider. And so what I'm going to do first is let's just kind of look at the MPM. So I'm going to look at MPM configure. And this is basically going to just give us a really basic setup for our MPM. And then we can kind of go from there. So I'm going to turn that off. So here's our MPM solver. We've got our source, we've got our collider, and we've got our container. So this is the general workflow for something like MPM. And normally when you first start it out, there's a bit of a hit that you take with the MPM solver, like startup time. I had dropped it down once in this scene, so it is remembering that it cached or it compiled that shader. But this is just an example of how it looks. And we can come in here, and I believe under the source, we've got different material presets here. You know, we can look at these different types of behaviors. And I think what we're going to do maybe is it'll probably be similar to snow, honestly. Have to think about that, exactly which one we'll use, because there's different behaviors here. There's different material presets that we can use. So if we go to sand, yep, behavior is sandy. Let's just see what that looks like. I think it's going to have to compile that. Yep, it's going to compile that OpenCL kernel. So yeah, anytime you change to the different types of materials, it has to compile that kernel to be able to run then on the GPU. So they aren't all pre-compiled and just waiting to go. They do have to be compiled when you switch over to them. So just a little something that, you know, to keep in mind. And again, all of these materials exist on a continuum from kind of liquid to solid. So if you're working on anything in that continuum there, as far as in a grainy kind of manner or slightly kind of elastic or, you know, things that can, basically anything that you want to be able to tear and break apart fairly easily, that is something that MPM is really good at, because it's not really, you know, we don't have constraints that we're setting up. We're giving it properties to kind of hold itself together. So let's take a look at this. I think that this is going to be a little bit too, yeah, I think this is going to be a little bit too kind of uniform. I don't think we're going to get the right type of material look out of this. Feels a little bit too viscous-y. So I think we can safely say that this won't be the type that we're going to want to do. I think we're going to want to go with something more in the snow world. And I don't think I'm going to have to, nope, I'm not going to have to recompile that because I already had it compiled. So I think we're going to want something more in this world here. Okay, So let's now start and do our own thing here. So, all right. Whoop. So let's take a look at, let's think of how we're going to create this, area that it's going to be moving through. So let's make a box here. And we don't need it to be super thick. Let's make it something like 0.1. That's probably okay. We can do that for right now. Let's make it a little wider. This axis here. Something like that. And then let's make this, you can make it a little longer in this axis. This axis. And then let's make it longer. So we need it to go. Oh, I was looking at it in the wrong direction. That's funny. Let's see here. So we want this to be going that way. So let's see. We can spread it like that. And now we've got some, like an object to start with there. Let's do a match size here. Again, we're just going to set this to minimum up, and I'm just going to say none and none. So that's only going to move it in the one axis, in our y axis, and kind of place it to the ground. All right, so we've got that. Still think we maybe could go a little smaller here. Let's do something like that. 0.75. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so let's do MPM source. That's the first one we're going to do here. Oh, right. We need an MPM container as well. So let's do that. So this is our MPM container. What we can do here is we can wire this in like this if we wanted to, and that will create our, that'll put particles in our container. And it'll also, I guess not put them in the container, but it'll use that as reference for things like particle separation and grid scale and blah, 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 things like that. Now, what I would say with this is, I think there's a couple things going on here actually as I'm thinking about it. One thing is I'm pretty sure we have a wall, like walls on either side of it here, because it's not letting these grains go anywhere past this edge. So there's definitely a collider here. It's not, this is kind of the edge of it. In fact, that's really, really thin. So why don't we thin that out a little bit more? I think try to get it close. Let's do this and do 0.5 like that. So the other thing we can do instead of, oh, cool, Dollop. Yeah, welcome to the stream. Yeah, no worries. Glad to help you out with that tree problem. Sounds like I'm like an arborist or something like that. A friend of mine is actually a person that will go and cut down dead trees. So if you have a real tree problem, I know somebody you can go to, but I'm glad I could help you with your digital tree problems. All right, so this is another thing you can do is instead of wiring them together, you can just give it the location of the container, and then it's just a virtual link instead of having it physically linked there. So that's something you can do as well. It's probably a little cleaner to do that, but it does make it a little harder to see that they're linked together. So let's see here. We've got NPM. Let's grab the solver. So obviously the sources are going to go in here. The container is going to go in there. And we really, so the collider is going to be this here. Hey, Thakar, welcome. Nice to have you. So let's do NPM, if I could type. Man, I am doing great today. NPM collider. So this is going to be our geometry that we're going to use as our collider. And we're also going to stick this in there. And now we have that collider. Wire that in. And we can see that that is going to start with the collider kind of not being part of, basically not having a source where those particles or where that collider is. We do also need to adjust this, right? So the collider type, it's not going to be rigid because that's going to be, oh, actually, yeah. Oh, I was thinking it wouldn't be rigid because, man, that collider is really, I was thinking we're going to have to go with the deforming, but we don't because this is smart enough to apparently figure out that we have, that we have an actually rotating object, which is really crazy. I'm super surprised that that worked, but I guess it's just watching the difference between the source, like between the source and the, I don't know. That's crazy. That's cool that it worked. That's a little surprising to me. So yeah, basically what it's doing is it's actually rotating the VDB, so it's not calculating that constantly. So that's pretty nice. It's actually doing that a lot quicker than it would if you had to have it calculating that on every frame. So that's really nice. Okay, so the one thing I want to do here is adjust this container a little bit. So we do have, I believe, a ground plane. Yep, we do have a ground plane, and that would be under there. Oh, right here. It's just a much bigger ground plane, or it's a much bigger box than I'm used to for the ground plane parameters. So what I think I'm going to do instead is maybe, okay, nope, change my mind. What I think we can do is we're going to take this box and we are going to copy the size over to here. And let's just say paste relative references. This will make sense hopefully in a second. Then I'm also going to grab the center, copy parameter. Over here, sorry. Paste relative references. Okay. So I don't want this to be, yeah, so I'm going to delete this channel and delete this channel. We're going to give this maybe, oh, I don't know. Let's give it 5. No, that's even too much. Let's give it like 1 meter. Yeah, that's probably good. And then we'll just copy, oops. We'll just copy this parameter, paste a relative reference there, and then divide that by 2. And then that'll make sure that it sits on the ground plane like so. And then what we can do is make sure that we are, so we have our Z and our X, they're behind my head. We want to close it in the positive and negative Z. So let's see if we do that. That should give us 2 kind of closed boundaries to this. So let's see what that does. Boy, that's a sticky collision. Looking kind of cool. Okay. So let's see here. So so something's happening. Sneaky. Yeah, they're behind my head. Got to get out of the way. So, all right. What do we have here? Let's think about this. So we've got this object here. I'm going to turn the friction down on this. So there's a couple different things that we can have on this collider. We can actually have it sticky too. So like all the particles get stuck to it, and that, like, I think if we turned this up to 1, you're going to see that this is going to be a lot of a very different looking simulation here. Yeah, like everything is just stuck to this thing basically. And it's like pulling it around more and everything. So we can see that that's going to really pull everything around. So we can make it so that the particles will actually stick to this, but obviously we don't want that. So let's set this back to 0. Let's turn the friction down. Let's go like way down and see what that does for us. What? Oh, that's weird. Okay. So what it looks like happened there somehow, I don't even know how that just happened, but it looks like, yeah, it looks like we've just got too thin of a geometry, and we need to adjust this a little bit. So let's go down to, oh, Gideon. Yeah, that's an interesting other option. Yeah, it could be fading off as it goes to the edge, maybe. But like the reason I'm not sure that you're seeing that per se is like these pieces here are being stuck together. Maybe for pieces that I think there is a point at which stuff fades out because it's a loop, right? So, and it's really hard to loop simulation. So there definitely is a point at which stuff fades out. It's got to be some sort of crossover. So yeah, maybe at a certain distance away it would fade out. It's kind of a little tough to say, but the reason I'm saying that is because like here, these particles like look like they're like hitting a wall and like kind of bouncing around and stuff like that. So yeah, they might fade away after a certain point. It's kind of hard to say, but yeah, maybe after a certain amount of emission time, they're fading away, or a certain amount of time after collision, possible. So yeah, certainly is an option. But I'm getting this here, which is really odd. I think that's because, so I bet you that is because my collider is, let's do something here. So let's make this a little taller. I feel like it needs to be a little taller. So let's do 3.5. And then here on this, we're going to justify y down by negative 0.05. Just to let it go a little below the ground so that stuff can't slide underneath it. And that'll just be just a little bit better, I think, from a collider standpoint. And there we go. Yep, exactly. So the other thing too then, oh yes. So the domain also has friction. So let's turn that way down. So it doesn't really have, actually, you know what? That can have 0 friction. I don't really want there to be any friction on the domain. Interesting. All right. So let's take this and turn the particle separation down even a little bit more. See if we can get a little bit more detail out of this and go from there. So I think what would be done in that simulation is basically there you would let it run for a little bit, you know, obviously following this object. And once you get to sort of a stable point where you feel like it's a fairly stable part, like, you know, the animation is basically feeling more or less continuous along the rest of it, you would then from there you would basically take a section of the animation and then just loop that basically. So yeah, the other thing you could technically be doing is move. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking you could be moving the particles past it, but 6 of one, half a dozen the other. So man, it's like really plowing its way through this. All right, so let's try something here. I still feel like this is maybe a little too thick. So let's go down a little bit more in particle size. So we're going to make the particles even smaller. And let's thin this out a bit more. Let's go like this, 0.25. So we'll make it a really thin sheet. See where that gets us. Maybe a bit too high particle separation. Let's see here. Let's try. 0075. Yeah. That's starting to feel pretty fun. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. Hey, Sajil. Welcome. Welcome to the stream. Interesting. These are like really launching up there. Cool, cool. Yeah, it's. I haven't really played with it very much. I've had so many other things I've been working on. So, and yeah, on the stream it just hasn't really come up. So I was like, somebody had asked about it. I was like, yeah, that seems like a good thing to do. So let's do it. So this is interesting here. I think. Oh, you know what? I must not have this caching enough. Under here. Yep. Let's up that a bit. So I think we're a little bit too like clingy together. Feels like we've got like, I don't know. It's almost like mud or something. Like it feels too. Have I figured out if it has a start and stop attribute on particles? I haven't even looked, but I certainly can. We can try to take a look here. All right, so these are the particles coming out. I don't see any here, so that's interesting. I think if we went here, yep. Okay, so I don't see anything here, but let me take a look. So if I was trying to find something like that, I would hope that under our help documentation here, it's not in there for sure. Yep. So what I would do if I was looking for that is I would come over here, because whenever I'm looking like for vellum, for example, I always look in the vellum section here, and let's take a look at MPM. I don't know if there is, yeah, let's see. Let's see. Troubleshooting. Precise, fascinating colliders. Yeah, so yes, the reason that is there a way to download the documentation as a huge PDF? I don't think you want that PDF. That would be monstrous. No, I don't know of any way to do that. Keelan, good to have you on the stream, by the way. Yeah, I think he was just saying, Sajil, I think he was just saying like it would be nice to have it somewhere outside of Houdini, like as a document or something. That was all he was saying. Okay. So, Sajil, have you tried to use just the stopped attribute? I'm guessing you have, but Um, so also just to go back to the question about why can't it be a DOP solver, there, I mean, it is obviously, but really all it is an MPM object and an MPM solver. And so, and as far as like actually doing the solving side of it, you can see here that this solver is basically a bunch of, like a bunch of stuff inside of it. And I think a lot of it is OpenCL and a lot of weird, like little multi-solvers and different things like that. You couldn't see a stop attribute. The only reason I'm asking is because if we came into here, we could do a, sorry, pop. Can we do a pop? Or no, what is it? Is there sleep? I thought there was some sort of sleep thing. Oh yeah, there's lots of people that have done the GPT thing with the documentation for sure. Yes, there's a pin attribute in here as well. What I would say is you could, I mean, let's just do a pop wrangle because we can use those in here, although it's not going to be as fast. If we just do I at stopped equals 1, just curious if that has any effect on this. Until something's updated. Yeah, we don't update anything ever. I don't know what you're talking about. All right. Let's see here. And can I do stopped? Yeah. Yeah, stop doesn't do anything. So no, I don't think there is a stopped attribute for it because the way that this works is kind of like it's all the particles are kind of like referencing each other, and I think if you had something stopped, I mean, what you could probably do is you could probably set the velocity of a particle to 0 if you wanted it to be stopped, right? Pop behavior, yeah, maybe. Yeah, but that would be like a collision behavior, right? So, like, yeah, if you did that, that might do it. Sorry. Every time I do this, it's really annoying me. I think that is still doing the stopped thing, but let's see. Are any of them stopped? No. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's that works, unfortunately, but yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, that's interesting. I had not really thought of that. I think if you're looking to do something more along that lines and it's like grain and stuff like that, I would probably just go with vellum then instead, because you're going to have a lot more, like, there's no constraints in, um, per se in MPM. So, but what I'm sort of looking for is like your example, but on a slope, avalanche stuff, want snow sitting still. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure on that specific. I hadn't thought of that exactly. Um, yeah, yeah. There's good breaks, but you can also create explicit constraints um, in Vellum and have those. Um, you could also have those. Um, you could set up some breaks. You could pre-fracture, quote unquote, the the grains in Vellum if you wanted to. You can have explicit constraints between particles in there. So, yeah, Colleen, you were asking about LiquidGen and EmberGen. Yeah, I think they're cool. They're obviously like you can tell that they're real time. You know what I mean? Like that they're not as there's not going to be as much like control and stuff like that built in there. But I think it's certainly a cool thing. Um, if it was something that was in Houdini, would I use it? Sure. I'm not really like seeking it out per se for like personally. Like I just, I have enough trouble professionally just making sure that I know what's happening in Houdini. Um, so trying to figure out another piece of software really isn't in the cards for me. But yeah, they're cool. I mean, I know a lot of people really like what they do. So yeah, it's pretty neat. I think I'm just going too fast. Oh, right. All right. So let's tweak some of these parameters here and see what we can't get up to. So we're in here. Let's see here. So I think we can leave. Actually, you know what? Honestly, it might be a little lighter than snow because snow's pretty heavy. I don't know if anybody's ever shoveled snow. Snow is quite heavy. Yeah, no problem. No problem, Colleen. So maybe my collider is just moving way too fast. So let's go back to that and see if we can't maybe slow that down a little. Set this to 240. Just gonna middle click, slide that down there. Well, that's weird. This must only be pulling it in for a certain number of frames. Is that what it's doing here? It's weird. Oh, hmm. doing that. Now I broke it. What did I do? There we go. What the heck? Okay. Anyways, let's go back here. Sample range. What is going on? That is so weird. I broke it? All right, so let's just do this. And I'm going to right click on this and grab the parameters. And we'll just come back up here. And so let's do this at like, yeah, that's good. Cool. And let's just make sure that these are not going in any weird directions. No, they look good. Okay, all linear. Great. Set this back to 120. Comey was asking, what PC specs are you using? I have mine's getting a bit old now, but I have a 3000 series Threadripper, 3970X, and I have a 3090 graphics card. So those are my specs. All right, so let's come back over here. Let's see what that does for us here. Yeah. Yeah, it's looking a lot better. So sometimes it's just as simple as making sure that your collider is doing something, that works properly for what it is that you're trying to do, right? Oh, that sucks, Sajil. Sorry about that. Well, the recording will always be there, so feel free to watch some other time. It'll be on YouTube. Yeah, so sometimes when you're doing a simulation, just even having your collider doing the right thing and moving at the right speed is a big part of it, right? Is making sure that it's not doing some crazy, whatever amount of movement and pushing everything way too hard. And so that seems to be a good portion of what this was, is just kind of slowing that thing down to be able to make it work a little bit nicer. Now really it's going to be tweaking some of these individual properties to make sure that we're doing good here. Another thing that's kind of interesting with the with MPM is that it does have a dynamic substep count. And so if you wanted to try to get a little bit of speed out of it, you can try to tweak this a little bit. Actually, it was in the help here. I think, let's just double check here. Yeah, so you could change the substeps max, but we're not getting up to that max. So what we could try to do is give a little bit more on this. Maybe do... Oh, maybe go the other way, sorry. See if that will increase our subs or decrease our substeps. Nope, that increased it. Okay. Yeah, I don't think we can increase that. So let's see here. Oh, hey, Wallaby, welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'd like to see you attempt to render this too. Seems to be such a tricky part of the MPM particles puzzle. Yeah, surfacing definitely is a tough one. With this, it really is more of a particular, type thing. So what you would do is just get really high particle counts and let it go to town and just render it as particles, basically. Surfacing is definitely tricky with MPM, but it's tricky with Flip. It's tricky with anything. So, yeah, it's definitely tough to kind of figure that out. But yeah, I can maybe try to give it a shot, see if we can't render something. All right, so let's. Oh, I see that. Yeah. We can take a look at that. That shouldn't be too bad. So what I could do is change this substeps max to 100. I have a feeling this is going to freak it out on some level. But you can see that this is now limiting the substeps down here to 100. So it's trying to be sort of conservative with the number of substeps that you give it. So, you could probably get a little bit of speed out of it for some accuracy, obviously, sacrificing some accuracy. But yeah, it's kind of up to you with what you want to do. Maybe I'll set that to just like 150 for right now. Just give us like a kind of in between somewhere here. It's really interesting how these particles all kind of move a little bit until kind of the friction force with the ground sort of kicks in and then starts to actually work against it, starts to actually like bite on that ground plane. But like this is something interesting that I don't think we saw if we had this like as high as it could be. I don't think it buckled right there. No, doesn't look like it did. Oh, maybe it does a little. Yeah, it does. It does. But not quite as much. Just a little rise there. Okay. So let's try this. Let's do 150 on this. And let's play around with some of these presets here. I think, let's see, what do we want to adjust here? I think we do want it to not compress very hard. I wonder if we could do this. I wonder if we could just really go to town with that and see if that'll do anything for us there. All right. So we're going to have to do some flip booking here. So let's see what we got. What does this E attribute do? Where do you see that? I know E is one of them. Oh, yeah. So those are the if you look at the actual like I think it's actually in the MPM documentation, like in the actual like papers that it was released with. They're just like variable names basically. And so we're trying to kind of come up with names for them. Like in this case, so this one right here, point attribute NU, it's deformation in reaction to stress applied to the material. This parameter is called Poisson's ratio in the context of solid mechanics. There's one, I think this is Young's modulus. in the context of solid mechanics. Oh yeah, this one's E. So that's Young's modulus. And this is the stiffness E of the material. So yeah, so there's all of these different things. These are parts of the of solid mechanics and parts of kind of the more physics-based side of this, and then obviously looking at the kind of historical MPM, research and stuff like that. Obviously, side effects didn't create MPM, so we're referencing things and trying to give them names that maybe work a little bit better. These were all sort of we kind of came up with the names of these. They weren't particularly like named in any way. So yeah. All right, I'm going to flip book this real quick. The other thing. Just wondering if there was a way I could get the camera to kind of follow it easily. I mean, I know there is a way, but I'm just. All right, so we've got that so far. Let's see. Let's see what else we could come up with here. See if we can't. That's the resistance to deformation. Let's up this a little bit, actually. Wonder if let's just double that and see where that gets us. Yeah, so see how there's this initial slide? That would be part of what you would want to like sim into for a little bit so that weird like slide doesn't happen. And then you can just kind of go from there and start figuring out your look. All right, let's see here. How does this compare between the two? So there's our sequence list. Let's just look at the two here. Interesting. So this one is at the lower stiffness. It is, or no, sorry, this is the higher stiffness. These sides are obviously being stuck together, like are staying up quite a bit higher. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think that is looking better there. All right, so let's go the other way then with it. So instead of at 1.4 is where we started, let's go down to 0.7 and just see what that looks like. It's going to be a lot of back and forth tweaking some parameters here. So we'll see what we can come up with. Not sure what this will do, but we'll see. Yeah, I actually think that's looking a little nicer on the sides there. It's kind of good. Hi, Greg. In recent side effects talk, it was hinted that upresing sims via machine learning would be coming to Houdini. Any overall thoughts on this? Um, yeah, I think that would certainly be a cool use for machine learning because, um, obviously once you get a simulation doing what you want it to, the the next step is to, um, like oftentimes when you try to go from one resolution to another, you can run into even more problems. So, in my mind, doing something like that where you would have all the control in the world over your simulation, right? And then if you wanted to upres it, basically, I can especially think of places in like the in like motion graphics and stuff like that where I would certainly want to do that because the time constraints are much smaller as far as like the time you have to run sims. Obviously, for probably Avatar or something like that, they're not going to really like that because they want so much control over things. But I think for a lot of cases where you have a good base sim that you've created, and you're like, man, I just wish I could up the detail a little bit more. The amount of just computational time that you have to throw at it, and then sometimes just having to go all the way back to the drawing board because you don't have something. Like you can't just change a slider and have it do the same thing, just with more quality. I think that is something that's pretty frustrating. And yeah, I think that would be something that would be a welcome place for machine learning to come into. Yeah, I think you might be talking about the FMX talk that's going to be coming up. Gideon, interesting question. Is there a way to use like noise stuff to control this ERU density to get variation on the chunkiness and the breaking stuff up? Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, you could certainly do that. Um, I do. Yeah, I do think that it's kind of, yeah, because like here you've just got these attributes, right? So it's just really more or less just that. You could just tweak these attributes before they go into there. Um, yeah, I think some of it is just knowing, getting a feel for some of these properties. So like, I'm just trying to think of this here. Okay, so let's think of this here. This is the lower limit. Let's just try something. Let's just try this. Let's just try to turn the critical stretch down a little bit. See if that does anything for us. I'm not sure it will, but let's give that a try. My thought is that maybe that will allow it to stretch less before it breaks. That's my thought. Could be wrong. Maybe it has to go the other way. Hey Zach, welcome to the stream. Nice to have you. That's funny. I actually think it's the opposite. I think it's chunking less. Feels like way more like smooth. Okay. Well, we're learning something here. We're learning. It feels like super, super smooth. Let's just see this here. So we've got that, and then we've got this, and that is definitely a lot. Like there's stuff breaking up here versus this here. It's like all smooth across the whole thing. So let's try that the other way. So what was this by default? 0.75. So let's do, we went down. So let's go. Wait a second. What did I have it at before? Hello. Did I have it at before? 0.05? 0.075. All right, so let's go to 0.1. See what that does. Oh, let me go over here. Start this up. If you start me up. Okay. I'm seeing that like tearing, so that's kind of interesting. So another interesting thing that we could probably do here as I'm just thinking about this is what if we just tried something here? Cuz this is still looking like a little too mushy to me. It's not feeling like what I want it to. Like it's cool the way what it's doing, but let's just try something here. Let's do another MPM source. Let's drop that down. Let's grab the container and throw that in there. Great. All right. So let's just call this. Let's see. Let's start with the sand preset here, just to see if there's anything. Yeah, I bet you this is going to be better. All right, so let's do this. Let's do sand preset. I wonder if this cohesion is going to be a little bit better for us here. So let's just wire this in. And we should be able to now... Oh, did I just reverse myself there? I did. It's on the wrong one. All right, let's... There we go. I just didn't switch over. Let's grab this. Let's say sand. Wire that in. Sand preset. All right. Oh, cool. Yeah, you can animate this cohesion to make dry sand wet. So that would be cool. You could do that within the solver. All right, let's just give it a little bit of cohesion. Oh, wow. That was the full slider. What's this? Wow, that is a tiny slider. Okay. Let's just give it just a little bit of cohesion. How about that? All right, let's see. All right, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. We have some particles launching into space. What's going on there? That's interesting. Let's see what that was. We're losing stability here, folks. What's going on? Hmm. Interesting. All right, let's turn the cohesion off. See if that's the problem. Um, oh, you know what? I wonder if it's the minimum maximum substeps. Could be that. Yeah, yeah, substeps, exactly, exactly. I was just that was just occurring to me as I was doing that. All right, so we can probably do the cohesion, but let's do just a little bit. Actually, I wonder if I can go even smaller. Yeah, just a little, very little bit. And then what is this? Yeah, see the substep count is 324 there. So that's why because I had the substeps at a maximum of 150. So that's why making those kind of that global edit to your substeps, it's just not a great idea because if you change material types, they all kind of require different amounts of substeps. So let me just hit escape on this here and go back. Let me just write over this one here and see what happens. It's funny how that one was like super wavy with not the right, like it was like going like it was like getting like ripply as it was pushing into it. It's really weird. This is even smoother, so that's interesting. It's very interesting to me. I'm not sure why that's happening. It must it's got to be the cohesion, I would assume. Yeah, that's like even smoother than what we were looking at before. That's funny. Okay. Okay. Well, let's see here. Let's just turn the cohesion off. Um why is the density so much different there? Let's just try that. Just out of curiosity. Wow. That is way more substeps. Huh. That's interesting. Why is it going so maybe at the mass? Hmm. Interesting. I think that was at 2200. Yeah. Interesting. It was with the mass. All right. So not loving the way that that's working. Friction angle. Um, let's just see. Let's just see what something like that does. We're just tweaking things, seeing what happens here. Whoa. Huh. Like what the heck was that? It like bound up all this energy in it and then just like released it. That was wacky. Hmm. Interesting. That's a really interesting like little quirk there. Very interesting. All right, so let's set that back. Let's just play around with some of these things. Volume preservation. Hmm. that's going to allow it to like compress more, I feel like. And that's not really what we want. So let's maybe do 0. Oh, wow. Is that 0.3? Let's do 0.4. See where that gets us. This might ultimately not do the case for us, but certainly is interesting. Got a hair in my eye. Go away. Hair. Interesting. All right. So that doesn't seem like it's doing what we want. So let's go back here. This was at 0.3. What's the midpoint here? Just do that and just see if that gets us anything. The other thing is maybe the stiffness. Could try to turn that way down. Or up, maybe. Maybe make it more stiff. Huh. Kind of interesting. Okay. Let's change this and see if that gets us anything. Oh boy. Think we're at a crazy high number of substeps here. Oh, we're in the thousands. Exciting. Right, because as stiffness goes up, wait a second, is the whole thing sliding with it? Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. The whole thing's just sliding. Okay. Well, that's not the answer. Let's go down. Let's just see what down does. Well, we definitely get lower substeps with that. That's interesting. So let's try that like this, just out of curiosity. No, I just don't like what that's doing. I just don't like it. It's as simple as that. I don't like it. All right, let's go back to the snow one. Let's keep playing around with this a little bit. So let's see if we can't mess with this a little bit. Oh, wait. Interesting. Just see what happens here. Okay, which one was that one? Yeah, I don't like that one. All right, that's where we were at, I think. So let's just take a look at this here. Yeah, that seems... Yep, that looks like that's where we were at there. Okay. So just out of curiosity, what if we turn the stiffness down? What is that going to do for us here? All right, so let's just roll that and just see. Yeah, I think we want to go the other way with the stiffness, obviously, but I feared it. I didn't want to go there. All right, let's see here. Can we do this within a reasonable amount of time? Okay. Let's see what happens here. Wow, that is really stiff. That is some stiffness happening there. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So that seems too stiff. But if we go down like 100,000 and maybe changes to 1.4. That's where we were before, wasn't it? So it really was this critical stretch. I think that's going to be the big, bet you it's going to be the big decider. All right. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, so I think what we're doing here is we have like an upper and a lower limit on this from what I'm seeing. So let's try this. Let's see if we go like this. Maybe something like that. Back to the beginning. That seems too high stiffness. So let's go back to like 1. These are all very fine adjustments, which is interesting because sometimes like things like vellum, I feel like a lot of times you're making like multiples of 10 swaps and like those exist here. But it certainly is interesting because it doesn't feel like, you know, it doesn't feel like you want to make very big changes. It feels like these little changes can make a big impact. All right, let's try this to see where that gets us. Okay. Yeah, it's starting to get kind of interesting. I like that. Hmm. All right. Run it down. Let's run it back. Oh, that's really funny. That's like really like compressed there. Interesting. It still feels like too, I don't know, like too wet or something. Okay. So let's bring this back down to this 0.7. See what that gets us. Yeah, kind of liking that. That's interesting. Let's get a flip book of that just to see what that looks like in real time. Yeah, it still feels too soft or something. Let's see. Is there something that we can do to make this feel Hmm. All right. I'm going to try one more time to go back to this. And instead of having this sand preset, I'm just going to try to set these all back to where they would be by default, since we know that tiny little changes are going to make a big difference. And just see if we can get this to look and feel a little bit more sandy. Hmm. No, I don't understand why this feels so. All right, so let's turn this friction angle down. See what that does for us here. That almost looks like fluid now or something. Like what's happening there? That's so weird. Huh. Let's just keep playing with it, see what we can come up with here. Oh, that's crazy. Huge, huge splash, sand splash. Wonder if the density's too high. Just out of curiosity. So Gideon's just asking, will the point velocity noise affect the sim, or won't it have any effect? And also, will the source compute velocity on its own? Not sure if it would. I don't think it would. I don't think it's going to compute velocity on its own. I think you would want to feed it in velocity. But just like with any DOP network, it's only going to input the the value at the very first frame. So if you wanted to constantly be adding in some sort of velocity, you'd have to do that inside of the solver itself. You can add velocity here, obviously, as well. Oh, no problem. Yeah, yeah. In a pop sim, yeah, overlapping points, yeah, they get kind of like stuck and then they go like pop. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just very odd that I feel like I just feel like there's nothing sand-like about this. It doesn't feel like sand. So that's where I'm kind of confused on this one. All right. I think we're getting still better results with the snow preset. Whoa. Oh, I was like, what happened in there? So, out of curiosity, I wonder if I could set this back. Set this back. I'm just curious if this needs to be smaller. Like if that's a thing. Hey, Axis, welcome, man. Nice to have you. Is it just that the difference between those two is kind of important? Not sure. Yeah, thanks for the suggestion. Axes? Axis? I don't know how you'd say that, but I'm saying it like that. What if both of those are lower? I don't know. We're trying things. Well, this window is not really helping, or this tiny little thing down here is not really helping me, so we'll just close that for now. Man, I really wish that this was looking. Oh, selected the wrong one again. I really wish this was looking more. Thanks. I feel like it looks way too like wet and sticky, which is not what I'm hoping for. So I'm just really, really confused by that. Why it looks so wet. You know what? I didn't try it all yet. Didn't try the soil behavior. Maybe that'll be worth giving a shot here. So let's do that. Soil. Interesting. Interesting. What's the difference between the snow, soil? Huh. Tried it myself, had the same problem. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting. I'm going to call this one, just say soil preset. I mean, it's very similar. It's using the same behavior. Okay, so out of curiosity, all right, let's try this again. I also made the collider turn. Yes. Yep. I did. All right. So let's just see here. I wonder if part of our issue is that we just don't have enough particles. Like that could very well be part of this here. So, um, the speed is fast. Okay. Let's see what we can get up to here. Interesting. There's like this big fracture going down the middle now. Huh. That's pretty different than the last one. Hmm. Really interesting. I didn't change anything, but I wonder if it's, yeah, if it's just the nature of what the, like how many particles you have is going to really determine how the look of it goes. Cuz that's already, it's already feeling a little bit less, maybe less soft, I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's just in the sheer number of particles that you got to use to make it work, cuz like that's already starting to feel like way more interesting. Like it's like breaking apart in a much more, like, I don't know, just feels more correct or something. I don't know. It feels nicer what it's doing already. Okay. Well, maybe that's the answer then. Maybe we were a lot closer this whole time than I thought, and just upping the particle count is going to really have a huge impact on. Um, hey, yeah, how's it going, Tread? Welcome to the stream. Yeah, it's going well. Yeah, if you're looking at doing an avalanche, I would definitely take a look at that the preset that's in there, because that I can't imagine there being a much better example for how to go about doing that. Okay. So it looks like maybe just adding a ton more um, particles to this is really going to be the answer. So I'm kind of thinking that if we even went further with it and just really went nuts, um, we'd probably end up with a much nicer simulation overall. Because like that's already starting to feel like a bit drier, I guess. Maybe not quite dry isn't the exact word I would use for it, but it feels more like it's breaking into pieces than just a wet, mushy kind of slop. So that's kind of cool. All right. Well, we were talking about getting it over into Solaris anyways. So why don't we do that? That's kind of cool. I mean, we could definitely get a render out here or something, like if we did it, from like, I don't know, something like that. I don't know. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do a null out from here. Let's just say out. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's got to be the same idea. You're right, Zach, that like the point density, like when you adjust the point density in a cloth sim, you can obviously get finer details. It also has the ability to stretch more and do some different things like that. Um, and like a cinnamon bun. Yeah, it is kind of rolling like a cinnamon bun. That's good. Um, but yeah, like I think you're right. I think the just having more particles maybe allows it to have these areas that have unique kind of stresses and strains and things like that. I mean, I don't think that this is exactly right, but there's definitely some cool stuff happening here that I like. I mean, like that's interesting to me. Like, I don't think I think maybe it could be, maybe it should be a little faster still, but whatever. It's unique. It's our own thing. We've got this kind of rolling type situation going on here, which is kind of cool. But Yeah, it does look like there's a lot of particles in that render. Yeah. So that's probably what it is like, start getting something that you like and then crank up the particles and give it a good run and see sort of what you're getting to. This honestly might also be a really good case for wedging, right? Like in tops, because these attributes are so like finely controlled that throwing a few wedges out there might not be the worst idea in the world. Let it go overnight. I mean, it's not like it's going to take you ages and ages to simulate this, but get something that looks interesting and then allow it to maybe do some variations, like a couple variations of each of them, just to see what's kind of happening, with them. Give yourself an upper and a lower bound and then get some wedges. Maybe that's kind of an interesting thing to try. Okay, so there's our grains. We'll stick with that. Also these properties could very well, there's a lot of stuff you could do there to make those a bit more interesting or better. But let's render it. Let's just see what we got here. So we've got our collider and our grains. What attributes do we have on these grains here? Yeah, nothing particularly crazy. One thing that's really interesting is you can actually turn on this deformation gradient, I think it's called. And if you visualize that, is that F? This is a really interesting one because it actually kind of keeps the deformation of these, which is really fascinating. So like you can see it's got like a matrix for each of these, and it'll actually keep track of how the deformation goes over time. So you could like legitimately have like something, I mean, not that you would, but you could legitimately have like little objects, instance to these. And actually what you could do too is you could do something like I'm just thinking out loud here as I'm going through this, but like if you did this and did random and did points here and we kept a certain amount of them like this, you could do something kind of interesting where you would have, where you could do something like this, have like instance particles like rolling, objects like rolling around and stuff, which could be kind of cool. I don't know, just something to think about. Could be kind of neat. But it's neat that it keeps those, the matrix information from it. So anyways, just something to keep in mind. Okay, thank you. We'll turn that off and I'll turn that off here. Cool. All right. So let's go and do a lop network. So let's do that. Lop network. Yeah, exactly, Zach. Yeah, you would need to change its name. You would probably, your best bet would probably be to change it to like transform or something like that. But I think if you look up the instance, no, what would it be? Let's just look up copy to points. I know it's in there. Here. So there's a link to it, and I just know this because I've clicked on this node a bajillion times, but hello? There we go. I think it's this here. Nope. Okay, calm down, everybody. Must be this. Okay, so these are the attributes that it would look for. So you could change it to transform, I think, and that would do what you want it to, because that's a 3x3 matrix. I guess I'd have to look, but I think that's a 3x3 matrix. So let me see here. Yeah, 9 floats, so that's 3x3. So you could just do it as a transform here, and that would work. You could also convert it over to a quaternion, but transform should work just fine too. But yeah, you just you can rename it, and that should work more or less. I've done that. I feel like I've done that before with something, but anyways. All right, so let's do this. Let's go into Solaris. All right, so let's do switch over. Let's do a SOP import. So we'll call this, I need my thing back here so I can see my scene graph tree. So let's call this, I don't know, container. I'm going to put this under /geo/os, and we're going to reference in our collider. It's just going to be a tube, nothing too exciting. Actually, I should probably add some normals to that. Oh, that's going to kill that cache. That was stupid. That's okay. I will just run that again in a background. Let's see. Let's do a file cache. MPM sim cache. And we will just save that to disk in background and let that roll. The good times roll. Excuse me. Okay, we'll let that go. Actually, just make sure that that's doing its thing. Perfect. Let that go in the background. Cool. Okay, so we've got our container here that has normals on it. It is giving us a warning saying that there's no save path on the SOP. We can just use this as a merge. That's basically like kind of flattening our SOP geometry into the scene, as opposed to, keeping it. Basically, what Solaris wants to do is have that as a separate file that's saved to disk, just for because it likes things being saved to disk. So in this case, I'm just going to make it so that it's basically part of the current file that we're building, basically, instead of a file that'll be saved on disk when we go to write, if we went to write out this as a USD file. So anyways, got that container. Let's do another SOP import here, and we can do our grains. And this one we will go into our out grains. We'll have that. And this I think I'm going to put under sim. So we have sim and geo. So grains has points associated with it. So that should be good. We'll do the same thing with merging that in. Let's see how far we got with that. Probably only a few frames, but not too bad. All right, we got a second in, so at least we've got something going there. So we'll let it cook a little here. Cool. All right, so we've got our grains coming in, and that's looking good. Let me change this over to Karma CPU. I think we should see those as spheres. Yep, we do. So that's great. All right, go back to Vulkan. Okay. So what I would do, let's just do some simple stuff here. Let's do a quick surface material. We'll call this container mat. And this is going under our materials here. So I'm going to container mat. And I don't think there's anything special that I could use for these particles. Like any special shaders. So I'm just going to do another quick surface material. And we'll call this grain mat. So we've got our container and our grain materials here. And now I can do an assign material. This is going to let me make a couple relationships between these. So the first one I'll do is the container, and we'll grab our container material. And then we will take the grains here, Oop, wrong side. That goes up here. Hello. Drag and drop. There we go. And we can do the grain material there. You can obviously select these as well. I find dragging and dropping pretty straightforward. All right, so let's do this. Let's take the container and maybe we'll make it like a nice teal color. And the grains, let's do that. Oh, goodness. I don't know. That can be like a tannish, brownish color. I don't know. Something like that. Let's see what that looks like. Karma CPU. Great. Okay, so what we're going to want with our grain material is probably to take the specular way rough. So let's do that. Don't really want to see too much of a specular highlight there. If we could do some subsurface isn't really going to do a whole lot. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. What if we did add some subsurface in here? And just pasted that relative like that. Okay. Oh, one thing I forgot about. Let's do a grid for the ground. That's actually seems like a perfectly fine size. We'll just call this ground. We'll put this under geo. Again, you want to be really pretty specific with what you're doing here. Be as organized as you can be. I'm going to do another quick surface material. And we'll call this ground material. And we'll do another assign. Grab the ground material. And I think with this, let's see, what do we want to do with that? Maybe, maybe we make this like a metallic-y kind of thing. Like that, maybe. Turn the something like that. And I think for the container, I also want that to be, maybe we'll do so the specular. Yeah, let's get some better lighting in here. So let's do a dome light. I think I'm going to get an HDRI in here. And let's see, let's grab a texture. We'll just use one of the ones that are in here. Okay. Just grab that one. And for this container, let's maybe do a little bit more on like roughness for that. And then we'll do a coat. It's like super glossy. And we should, oh yeah, look at that. We almost have the full simulation done. So we'll give that a break for a second there. Let the CPU cook on this and get to the last frames because we're almost there. It's very different than what the video was like, but it's interesting. Something interesting. Like I said, I think if we had a higher amount of particles in here, we're going to get a much nicer result. Okay, cool. So we're all set there. All the frames are done. Let's go back over to Solaris here. And I'll just do CPU. And let's see here. Let's do a Karma node. Also, I don't have a camera in here, so let's throw a camera down. Camera. And I just want to make sure that we have a limit here. Let's do that. I wonder if this is going to do anything. Have that subsurface on. No, it doesn't really look like it's doing very much. It's okay. I'll just turn it on to 1. So at least we've got a little subsurface something going on there. Yeah, let's just look around here and see if there's, oops. Let's look through the camera. And let's turn this container on a little metallic too, maybe actually. I feel like that's going to look nice. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Obviously, we've got some really big particles here, so it's going to look pretty junky when you get in too close to it. But, you know, you have to kind of scale these things to the distance that you're working at, right? So that you're not overdoing your simulation. So, obviously we need to go quite a bit finer with these particles and would maybe get some much more interesting results from it with that in mind. But yeah, that's, I think, looking pretty decent. We can also turn on the image output filter here and turn on the Intel denoiser. Just help smooth things out in the end. Just kind of smooth this out a little right in there. But yeah, I think that's something. We're somewhere with this. Obviously color choices and whatever, you can make better choices than I could. But, I think it's sort of an interesting thing, and obviously, Jan there did a much nicer job than I was able to in a couple hours. But yeah, I think it gives you an idea for maybe how you could go about doing it and start to tweak it. And it gives you just hopefully a starting point to play with your own stuff and, come up with interesting ways to use the MPM. And also hopefully gave you some ideas around how specifically some of these properties in here work with the snow preset here that we were starting with, and like how you can go about tweaking some of these things and what's kind of helping and what's hurting. And I think if you go through and wedge some of those, you might get some really interesting results as you go through and do that. So I think worth taking a look at. But I'm actually really impressed at how fast this CPU render happens. I mean, granted, it's not a complicated scene, but it was pretty good. Pretty impressed with that. So yeah, I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight. I think we got a pretty decent little scene going here, and we can, you can take it, tweak it. It'll be up online. I hadn't even mentioned that. If you'd like to join the Discord server, there is a Discord server for the stream. It's at houdinihangout.com, and you can find a link right there. I see people joining every day, which is super exciting. So we're like well over 1,000 people that are in that Discord server. So it's really cool. I mean, hopefully you're all getting some help from that and able to talk back and forth. There's lots of times where I see people chatting about stuff in there and coming up with solutions and things like that. So that's always exciting. Problem solving is fun. I love it. So, hopefully you find that, find it helpful. And, you can feel free to add in suggestions for topics and things like that on there, as well. So like I said, I think, that's going to be where we end this stream for this evening. Thank you all so much for joining and watching and commenting. Axis, thanks for the suggestion for tonight. That was a cool one, and hadn't used MPM very much, so it's always good to get some of these other solvers. Thanks. And it's always good to see kind of how some of these other solvers work and get a sense for what they're good at, and maybe how difficult it might actually be to do some of these things and get some of these things working. So it's always good to have as many tricks in your pocket as you can. So thanks everybody for joining us. And I should be around next week again. I'm pretty sure. I'm just thinking through my schedule. Yep. There's pretty much all of May I'll be gone for. So I'll remind you all about that next week. But for now, that is it. And thanks for joining. And I'll see you all next week. Bye, everybody. Have a great night or day.